25 writing task is to write a letter referring Mr. Tom Clark, who has been hospitalized following a motorbike accident while cycling. He fell on an outstretched hand and happened to have injury to left elbow, so he was presented to the emergency response unit with limited range of motion and extreme pain. Here, you are Ramona De Costa, a senior nurse working with Helpline Hospital, where Mr. Clark was admitted, and you're writing a referral letter to physiotherapist Mr. Amit Kumar to arrange physiotherapy at his home for Mr. Tom Clark to improve his mobility. Let us look into the case note first. The name, date of birth and address are important and should be mentioned in the letter, where the name and address should be mentioned in the reference. While framing the letter, you have to say that his address is enclosed with this letter because you are writing this letter requesting a home visit by a physiotherapist. So when you're requesting home visit, then you must attach the address of the patient. The social background, medical, and the hobbies of the patient are not relevant since this information doesn't affect the service or the service provider. Here, since you are writing this letter to a physiotherapist, you must definitely mention and emphasize his physical condition. So the surgical history is very important, and that too the first information. That is his right ankle dislocation surgery following a car accident, which you have to mention this in your letter but can avoid the rest of the information provided in that section. Coming to the medical management and hospitalization part, we can see a lot of information here, but you don't have to go much in detail about that because you are writing this letter after the completion of healing process. Therefore, you can simply say how the accident happened, the treatment he received, and what is his current condition. However, you should keep in mind that all these points have to be mentioned in an organized manner so as to maintain the continuity of the letter. Taking all these points in mind, we have to prepare a letter. Now let us see how we can write a letter with the help of a sample letter written by a candidate from India. If we look into the details of the letter, there is a small mistake in the address, that is the title in front of the name is missing. You should use Mr. or Miss as title before the name while framing the letter. Coming to the date, you can just say 1 November, 2016 instead of saying 1st November. Other than that, the date used is correct. Moving to the reference part, there are a couple of mistakes such as you don't have to write aged 62 years. Instead, you can simply say 62 years. So we can write RE, then place a colon and write Mr. Tom Clark, 62 years. And you don't have to write the address of the patient in the reference, which is not advisable in OET writing. The salutation is correct. Moving to the introduction paragraph, I am writing this letter to request home visit for physiotherapy of Mr. Clark, who has stiffness and limited range of motion in the left elbow, which is somewhat okay but definitely not an impressive one. First of all, you don't have to write this letter because we already know this is the letter. The person who writes and the person who reads the letter knows that this is a letter. So you can rewrite this introduction in a much better way, such as I am writing to request physiotherapy at home for Mr. Clark, who has stiffness and limited range of motion in the left elbow. Moving to the second paragraph, on 26th August, Mr. Clark was presented in emergency with extreme pain and limited range of motion to left elbow because he fell on outstretched arm after an accident with a motorbike. Here, this sentence can be modified in a much better way like Mr. Clark was presented in emergency department with extreme pain and limited range of motion of left elbow as a result of fall down on an outstretched arm following an accident with a motorbike, which is now a standardized sentence. The rest of the paragraph reads as, on assessment, X-ray showed non-displacement fracture of coronoid process of ulna, moderate joint diffusion and marrow edema of neck and head of radius at articular surface. Therefore, sling was applied to protect elbow from mobilization and hot compression was advised for pain and inflammation along analgesics. Here, these sentences has to be reorganized and written in a much organized manner. You can rewrite this in a much concise manner like, his hand had immobilized for 6 weeks with the help of sling and underwent hot compression therapy and conservative medical management. Because when you're writing the letter, the patient had already completed the treatment. Hence, when you write this letter, you have to say only the relevant points and that too in a concise manner. Moving to the third paragraph, after 2 months, sling was removed because injury was well healed and exercise program was recommended at home. On 1st November, follow-up, he has complained of stiffness and limited range of motion. Next follow will be on 15 December 2016. Here, we can see that this paragraph 2 is formulated because of the events when the patient is admitted to the emergency department following his accident. Here, you can include all this information in a much concise manner and include in a single paragraph instead of breaking up into several paragraphs. You should mention the address of the patient in this paragraph, or you can simply say his contact details are attached with this letter, which is a relevant information and should not be omitted. Also, you should rearrange this paragraph like after removing his sling, his X-ray showed proper healing, but he has reported pain and limited range of motion of his left elbow. This patient has a history of car accident and had multiple surgeries. So you have to mention it a little bit but not in a detailed manner. It can be said as Mr. Clark has a history of another accident long time back and he had undergone multiple surgeries due to various reasons. Being a physiotherapist, he must know the condition of the patient, especially his physical condition. That is, whether this patient has any kind of disability. So you have to mention this information as well in the letter. Coming to the wind-up sentence, it would be appreciated if you contact for further information regarding him, which is not the correct way of closing a letter. Instead, you must write it as, it would be greatly appreciated if you could provide physiotherapy to manage his condition and contact me if you have any queries about Mr. Clark. The sign-off is perfectly written. Thank you.
New method for OET learning. How are you preparing? Online or offline? For speaking and writing, you can get tutor reviews. How will you be able to manage your reading and listening? How can you manage your self-practice easier than never before? Learn OET in Merlin's way. Most successful OET learning method from world's best online trainer. Chat now. mentormerlinexam.com